Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of The Comeback Kid. I am your host, Ben Friedel, and alongside me today, as always, are Nate Wiggins, Matt Hendrickson, and guess what, everyone? We have our very first in-studio guest on the show. His name is Nigel Ward. What is going on, Nigel? How are you today?
I'm doing great today, Ben. How are you doing today, Ben?
I'm doing great. We're all really excited to have you here. Nigel is on the baseball team here at USD, and he is going to be able to provide us with a lot of insight as to what baseball is up to right now, and he's going to maybe help us three non-athletes decipher what has been going on with the conclusion of the World Series, but also leading into the offseason, what kind of storylines and things we should be looking into. So great to have you here, Nigel. How are Nate and Matt? How are you guys doing today?
I'm doing great. Had a pretty nice and eventful weekend. Best part of my weekend was Michigan winning and Ohio State losing.
You know, I'm doing all right, Ben. I went camping this weekend. Had a pretty solid week in fantasy sports, only to find out that I lost last day to you in basketball. Some pretty sour thoughts on that, but...
Yeah, we were in a battle all week in fantasy basketball this week, and then I lost my first fantasy hockey game to James, of all people, who's in last place in our hockey league, but nice. that is irrelevant. So I think before we get into what we are scheduled to talk about today, I think it's important to acknowledge what happened in Texas over the past couple days with the shooting that occurred in a church. All of our thoughts and prayers go out to the victims and those affected by this horrible shooting. It's kind of the question, guys, of like, when will this end? It seems like there's, tragedy after tragedy, and it's so horribly sad. So we hope that if you are emotionally affected by this in any way, that we're able to make your morning at least a little bit better, and that if because we're just a bunch of goofy guys who like to talk about sports, so hopefully we'll be able to be that source for you moving forward. So I think before we dive into it, as always, let's explain what this show is about. So every Monday at 9 a.m., we hope to talk about sports and stories that may not get enough attention on major sports networks. This includes baseball, hockey, sometimes MLS. We're working on it, Nate. We're still working on it. And the MLS playoffs are going on, and I feel like that's relatively important. So we'll be able to hit on that eventually. And most importantly, it is the mission statement of our show that we want to talk about these sports and the topics that we want to talk about, and that's really important to us, and we appreciate you guys listening. So, all right, guys, let's jump right into it this week. So the World Series is over. Baseball season is over. I am very sad that baseball season is over, but what a World Series. We were really given everything that we could have asked for and more in this World Series. It had everything. It had clutch walk-off hits. It had extra inning thrillers. It had questionable pitching, but also great pitching here and there from Justin Verlander, and other starting pitchers. Clayton Kershaw had a great game as well. So I think it's important to acknowledge that I was right. as humbly as that sounds, before the World Series occurred, Matt, Nate, and I made our World Series predictions, and Nate predicted that the Dodgers would win in 7 games. That is wrong. Matt predicted that it would be Astros in 6. I think if you were listening to any previous episode, if you know one thing about our show, it is that Matt wanted the Astros in 6 because he just said it over and over again. But I wanted the Astros in 7, and guess what? The Astros won in 7 games. So congratulations to me. I was right. My baseball knowledge exceeds both of yours now as a result of this, and it was a great World Series for me.
Yeah, you know what? I had a lot of skin in this game. I was really counting on the Astros going in 6, and I made a fool of myself, and I will admit that. I think we all make fools of ourselves at least once a day, at least. For me, on the show, I feel like it's at least 15 times a day. It's something I've learned to embrace, and something that I will hopefully continue to work on.
Well, as I've said multiple times, I feel like my humility is one of my best qualities. And, I am humble enough to admit that I was wrong. I said it was going to be the Dodgers in 7, and while I did get the number of games correct, I did predict the wrong team, so, hey, I am enough of a man to admit when I was wrong. Respect to you, Ben. You were correct, and clearly you are the smartest guy in this room.
Well, all except for Nigel today, because if it's our normal, dumb, dumber, and dumber trio, then, there's not a lot of knowledge flowing in this room. However...
We'll certainly see, Ben. We'll certainly see.
All right. So let's actually move into the series itself. I want to pose the question to you guys because it was such an evenly matched series, like the Dodgers could have easily, if they had gotten a good pitching performance in Game 7, they could have easily won because the game was pretty much decided after the second or third inning. I want to pose the question to all of you. Did the better team win the World Series this year? That was something that I was hearing a lot from ESPN, from Fox. They were saying the better team won. But, is that really true? They didn't really give much explanation, so I'm hoping we could maybe bring light as to were the Astros a better team than the Dodgers?
I know, Ben, that I thought both of these teams were very evenly matched. Offensively, Houston was just a better squad in those 7 games. But pitching-wise, you have Darvish and Kershaw, and then Kenley Jansen in the back of that bullpen. For Houston, you have McCullers, you have Keuchel, and then Davinsky in the back of that bullpen. Those are 2 pretty evenly matched teams. I felt like Houston just really came out. Their stars really stepped up in the clutch and did a better job. I feel like the Dodgers can really make another run. Even with the team they have this year, they could come back with the same exact squad and probably do the same thing again. Is Houston going to be there again? Most likely.
Well, I think that the difference in this series was actually not a play. I think that the difference in this series was Dave Roberts, because I feel like Dave Roberts' poor managing cost the Dodgers at least 2 games. So, I'm going to say that that the Astros were not the better team, and I'm not saying that as like a salty person just because I picked the Dodgers, that the better team didn't win, the Dodgers were the better team. I'm saying that because I feel that if Dave Roberts had made a couple of different moves, the Dodgers would have won the World Series. And of course we can't, if he had made a different move, it still could have backfired on him, but I think that his poor managing cost the Dodgers at least 2 games.
I don't know if I'd go that far to agree with you, Nate. I think Dave Roberts is a very superb manager, especially in the regular season. Without him, I feel like the Dodgers don't get there. He's a very good players manager, player-oriented, process-oriented guy, at least from what I hear in his interviews. But you are right. I feel like pulling Rich Hill after 4 brilliant innings was a little bit premature. I felt like he made a good decision with Yu Darvish because he was nowhere to be found in this entire series. Both of his outings were very subpar. Pulling him early was probably the best chance. Just overall, I feel like managers in general nowadays just don't have quite as much trust in their starters in the postseason. Where does that come from? In the regular season, I feel like it's more obvious. Starters go longer. Like, you have more CGs. You don't see a CG in the playoffs anymore, unfortunately. We had Justin Verlander do it one time. But I feel like you still have to have some more confidence in your starters.
Yeah, and that's interesting that you bring that up, and that's been something we've been talking about on a lot of previous shows, is the shift between regular season pitching dynamics and the postseason, and the leash is a lot shorter in the postseason, and rightfully so, because those games are monumentally more important. However, there is a fine line that I think sometimes managers cross in pulling Charlie Morton after 5 innings to bring in Lance McCullers. Although that move worked out for them, if Lance McCullers didn't come through, you had a guy in Charlie Morton who was dealing all World Series. He closed out the World Series for Houston in the end. So I think it's a very, that's where managing becomes so important. That's where Dave Roberts' decision making was exposed, because he sometimes made the wrong calls in terms of his pitching, but we don't see Randy Johnson coming in for 8 innings like back in the mid early 2000s like we used to. It's a different game, and people are playing matchups more in the postseason, and whether or not that is making each team better, I think is debatable. So, looking back on this playoffs, I think that was a continuous theme of teams moving even further toward the matchup direction than we've ever seen before. We saw it last postseason with bringing in Andrew Miller, Kenley Jansen for multiple innings instead of just one, like 2 or 3 innings, saving those quote-unquote best arms in your bullpen to...
Not to mention Aroldis Chapman, too.
Aroldis Chapman, yeah, as well, who... to his own downfall sometimes, because he wasn't used to pitching multiple innings in the regular season, came in against Cleveland last year and served up the home run to Rajai Davis. And in the regular season, if he was on a regular throwing schedule, you wouldn't have necessarily maybe seen that. So very interesting moving forward. And so that was something that really stood out to me this World Series. Were there any other particular performances, games that you'll remember, or anything else that really stood out to you guys about this World Series that you'll remember?
I know I'm going to remember George Springer hitting 5 dingers. Springer dinger, everybody.
Oh, yeah.
That guy was super clutch. I mean, that whole offense really, but Springer was the highlight of the entire series. Just mammo home runs. And you can't say enough about the guy. I mean, I read an article yesterday about him getting over his stutter. I mean, just a great guy, sounds like, and then he's pouring his heart out on the field for Houston and that whole city and what they've been through this past summer. I mean, hats off to him. He really put the team on his back, and everybody else just kind of fell in and followed suit. And I mean, that was the highlight, George Springer for sure.
I think someone who's always going to remember this World Series now is Carlos Correa.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta. How much
so
of this
true.
series did he spend either on top of the railing in his dugout or like on the field just jumping around looking like a little kid? He like does basically what I think any kid watching baseball would want to do. But also on a different note, he ended up proposing to his longtime girlfriend after Game 7, and I think that's something that he'll never be able to separate his World Series experience and his proposal. So I think that's something that I thought was a really cool line that maybe doesn't get quantified or put in some kind of stat line, but Carlos Correa is going to remember this one for a while.
Yeah, that was a real special moment. I'm kind of was thinking, like, what was his plan to do if they didn't win the World Series? Like, was he not gonna propose to her? Was he gonna propose to her at a different time? Who knows? But congrats to him, and also congrats to Justin Verlander and Kate Upton, who they missed the Astros World Series parade because of they were actually getting married at the time. But I think one thing that just stood out to me was just the city of Houston, just the way they came together. And I mean, I saw a video at the parade of there was an Astros fan who was standing at the top of a parking garage, dropped their hat onto the ground, and the people in all the floors below them were like throwing the hat up to the next floor to try and get the person their hat back. And so, you know, just with everything that's gone on in the city of Houston, with Hurricane Harvey, and just the way that city's been able to respond, the way that city is starting to rebuild, is just something that I'm never going to forget. It reminds me of in 2009 when the Saints won the Super Bowl a couple years after Katrina, and just how much that meant to that city. You know, it's to me, it's the beauty of sports, that sports is something that brings us together during tragedy.
Yeah, and you could say the same for Boston after the Patriots Day massacre. I mean, that city, Boston strong, Houston strong, the same type of deal, came together, and sports really allows us to kind of put those tough, tragic events on the back burner and let us have fun a little bit. I feel like that's a great thing to have sports for.
Very well said, Nigel and Nate and Matt. Great insight there. Baseball season's over, guys. It's over.
Yes, but the off season has begun, so really it never ends.
Yeah. No, honestly, that segues us into what we were actually going to talk about next. Good job, Nigel. You're catching on rather quick here.
I'm getting it.
There you go. So that is right. Although no games will be happening until April, the baseball offseason, and especially this offseason, I predict is going to be one of the most wild off seasons that we can in recent memory. I think it starts with players who have or had the potential to opt out of their contracts. We saw a player, Justin Upton. He didn't choose to stick with his current contract, but he re-signed with the Angels the first day of the offseason. So thinking about Justin Upton, what do you guys think? Was that a good decision for him? Because he released a statement saying that he was happy to be back in Anaheim, and the statement reads,
My family and I are very excited and happy to be back with the Angels organization, and after talking with Billy Epler several times, who is the general manager of the Angels, it was evident to me that Artie, the owner of the Angels, and the whole organization is committed to winning, as committed to winning as I am, and the biggest factor in my decision, and I'm excited to get going and appreciate all the support I've received from Angels fans this offseason. Was this a good move for Justin Upton? Because it's debatable whether or not the Angels can be contenders moving forward. Nigel, you and I were talking about it earlier. They really don't have a strong pitching base. Do you guys think this was a good move for Justin Upton moving forward?
This move is a good move for the Angels, so much as long as it's not the only move that they make this offseason. Obviously, being an Angels fan, I'm super excited to have Justin Upton back. We weren't so sure that it was going to be a possibility of him coming back, just considering that he had that opt-out in his clause or in his contract for this upcoming offseason. But he basically signed for the same terms that he was already going to have on his contract of just adding another year. So be an Angel until he's age 35. I think it's a good move as long as it also means we're going to see maybe a quality pitcher like Alex Cobb or Lance Lynn also come to the Angels this offseason.
Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head, Matt. It's a great move for the Angels. Somebody to hit behind Mike Trout, who isn't named Albert Pujols. He's been a great player, but he's just not what he used to be, and I feel like they needed another big bat in that lineup. However, Ben, you mentioned the question, is this a good move for Justin Upton? Yeah, if I'm making $106 million, yeah, I'm gonna take that deal 10 times out of 10. I feel like this is a great deal for him. I've lived in Anaheim my entire life. I feel like it's a great city. He's going to enjoy it, and I love his statement. He said it very well. I'm excited to get going. He feels like the organization is just as committed to winning as he is. That's exactly what you want to hear from a player who just signed with a team after getting traded to him. So this is a good sign for both Justin Upton and the Angels, and Angel fans for that matter.
From a financial perspective, this is a good move for Justin Upton. He's going out there, he's securing that bag. From a winning perspective, this is not a good move for Justin Upton. If he wants to win a World Series, he is not winning a World Series in Anaheim. I'm sorry, Matt. I'm sorry, Nigel. But I just don't see just with how good the American League is, I don't see the Angels contending for a World Series anytime soon.
Anytime soon, Nate. Anytime soon. They have the best player in the history of Major League Baseball manning center field.
He's going to mention WAR. Watch it. It's coming.
Wins above replacement, Nate. Wins above replacement. We're getting the W's. It won't be just from Justin Upton. I think that
The pitchers need the W's too, man.
Pitchers need the W's too, but Billy Epler has been exactly what the Angels needed in terms of not signing these big free agents that you're going to lose compensation picks and then really just get stuck with these awful contracts. Speaking about awful contracts, Josh Hamilton is now off the books.
Yeah!
Let's go. Woo! I was in a very reflective state this weekend, and I was thinking I am arguably just as happy about him being off the contracts as I was back in December of 2012 when I found out that the Angels signed Josh Hamilton. I mean, we thought that we were going to be expecting a lot of big things from him. Obviously, that didn't happen. He thought he found himself, and then he refound cocaine. We thought we had something there. I don't see Justin Upton being the same problem as him or even Pujols. Remember when the Angels had Vernon Wells? These Angels have had a history of bad contracts, but I think Billy Epler is just making the smart decisions in signing smaller free agents. Obviously, acquiring Justin Upton was great. I wouldn't consider him a small free agent, but I think they're doing great things.
So we definitely have some biases in this room, I think, on both sides. I think it is debatable whether or not this move was a good move. However, I mean, you can't go wrong when you have Justin Upton on your team. And if you are able to add that on your team, I think that makes your team instantly better, and I think we can all agree with that. Absolutely. So overall, Justin Upton, you're adding quality to your team. my final question that I wanted to ask you guys regarding this offseason, how it's going to go. Derek Jeter, in case you all listening at home are not familiar, has recently been part of an ownership group to purchase the Miami Marlins. And he has come out publicly and said that he is going to have a fire sale. Miami has been a team notoriously known for their fire sales ever since they came into existence, it seems like. And so this brings speculation to whether or not the Marlins' very amazing core of Giancarlo Stanton, Marcell Ozuna, and Christian Yelich, they're 3 outfielders, arguably the best outfield in baseball. My question to you guys is, with Derek Jeter coming out publicly and saying that pretty much everyone is for sale and everyone is available, how many outfielders of those 3 are we going to see in Miami come off season's end?
Well, I think that if you have the opportunity to sell all 3 and just get back a boatload of prospects, get back a boatload of young talent, then I think you have to do it. Especially with the contract with Giancarlo Stanton, it doesn't seem like Miami's gonna in any position to be winning anytime soon. So if you can start selling off those guys, and I think I don't blame Derek Jeter for trying to do it. I would love to see Giancarlo Stanton in a Red Sox uniform, but that's a whole nother thing.
Not everyone gets a chance to be a Red Sox, Nate.
This is true. Jesus. I have a tough time believing that Derek Jeter is going to break up that squad. That's an incredible core of young, powerful outfielders, young, good hitting, powerful outfielders at that. You could argue we saw the same thing with Alex Rodriguez and the Texas Rangers 15 years ago. That contract was so lucrative at the time, and even Giancarlo Stanton's is incredibly lucrative. And the Rangers just ended up selling him off. He almost went to the Red Sox.
Yes.
Almost.
Yep.
So close. Yeah, it'll be quicker than that.
I've seen that 30 for 30 a couple times.
It's hard to think of a way that they're going to be able to keep Stanton without him eating so much payroll over the next, 10 years for this deal?
Something ridiculous like
it's
that.
Ridiculous. Yeah. And, lucrative, like we were saying. I wish, like hell, that they could hang on to all 3 of those guys, because that could be a really good squad. And if you could build around that with a bunch of young guys, you could have something there that could potentially bring a World Series to Miami, another one.
Great stuff, guys. And what an offseason it's going to be. Although, again, really sad that baseball itself is over. My favorite sport personally to watch. This baseball offseason is going to be especially crazy with everything going on in Miami, with players opting out and the current free agents. JD Martinez is a free agent. He's going to get paid no matter what. So, great stuff, you guys. So, that is it for recapping the baseball season. Man, oh man, what a season it was. When we come back, we have Nigel in studio, everyone, so he's going to give us some insight as to what is going on with USD baseball right now, as well as an athletic perspective to sports. Us 3 can't do that because we are not athletes. Nigel is an athlete, so when we come back, he'll be able to tell us all about what's going on with USD baseball. Stay tuned, you guys. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Comeback Kid, everyone. When we were last with you, we were discussing the end of the baseball season as well as an off-season preview, and now we have Nigel Ward in studio, pitcher for the USD Toreros baseball team. What's going on, Nigel?
Oh, I'm happy to be here, Ben. I love getting in with you guys. Three of my best friends out here, just having a lot of goofy fun on the radio, man.
Yeah, man. It's great to have you, and it's great to have you with USD baseball. It's very exciting. We have year in and year out, it seems like, our baseball team competes, and it's one of our better, more historic programs we have at this school, and you have the opportunity to be a part of what's going on. And so can you paint the picture to our listeners at home and to us, what is going on with baseball right now? Like, how are you guys preparing for the season? What's going on?
Well, the first thing I want to mention, Ben, is you said pitchers are athletes. I love you for that. That's great.
Yes, in the previous segment, yes, I did do that.
A lot of I mean, a lot of the speculation, I mean, from people who don't necessarily watch or play baseball that much as the pitchers just kind of throw the ball. That is absolutely not the case nowadays when Bartolo Colon can make a running play through his legs to first base. This is unreal. We're athletes, guys. Anyways, just to touch on USD baseball, the way we're prepping, I mean, inter-squads, weekly practices, like you wouldn't believe. We're really just keeping our noses to the grindstone, having a process mindset, having a yes mindset, a growth mindset, always looking for every opportunity to get 3 inches better or 3% better, as our lovely coach Rich Hill likes to say. We talked about getting to Omaha and winning in Omaha since day one. Every day we come to practice, we're like, yeah, when we get to Omaha, like, this is what we're going to do, and we are going to crush some people. Mm-hmm. Like, we feel really good about where we are, especially with the amount of work we put in. We're a very confident team. We're a very athletic team, a very fast team. And we're a very loose group of guys, too, which I feel lends itself to a lot of winning ways. If you look at the Red Sox in 2004, even in like 2013, 2007, that's a very loose group of guys, and they created, I mean, what could be called a dynasty. I mean, they won 3 World Series in the course of like 9 years. Even look at the Giants. I mean, they seemed like a really loose group of guys when they won 3 World Series in 5 years. I feel like that's a great thing for a team to have. And that's what it is in the clubhouse. Super loose, laid back. Of course, when guys need to be to put back in line, then everybody holds each other accountable. And I feel like that's when you have a really good squad, when you can have guys be super loose and then at a moment's notice be able to put guys back into their place to hold each other accountable. That's huge for a team. Yeah, definitely. And thank you for kind of taking us in the clubhouse like that. That's really cool, and that's great insight that us non-athletes are able to get a picture of. So that's great. You mentioned Omaha, and to enlighten those who are at home, when he's referring to Omaha, he's not referring to Peyton Manning or anything like that. He is referring to the College Baseball World Series, which takes place in Omaha, Nebraska each year. And it is a very select group of teams who get to go to Omaha every year. It's not like the NCAA bracket where there's over 60 teams, 68 teams in the NCAA basketball bracket. The College Baseball World Series is very select. How many teams, Nigel, go? It was actually increased to 16 this year. Yeah, increased. Yeah, it was 8 originally. You'd have to go through a regional, then a super regional, and then you'd go to Omaha if you won both of those rounds. But now it's just a regional system, and then if you win your regional, then 16 teams will go to play at TD Ameritrade Park in Omaha. Yes, so very select group going out to Omaha. And I want to pose a question to you, Nigel. When was the last time USD Baseball made it to Omaha? It pains me to say that we've never made it to Omaha. Wow, that's very surprising considering our baseball history. Chris Bryant, third baseman, former MVP and Rookie of the Year for the Cubs, attended USD, and if that's a testament to how difficult it is to make it to Omaha, we had the best college player in the entire country and he couldn't even do it. But it's not about individual players, and as you were mentioning, it's about the team. And you mentioned the culture, how loose everything is. You brought up something to me before the show that I thought was very interesting that you could explain to everyone at home. There's something called the Kangaroo Court that goes on in college baseball. Can you kind of explain to our listeners what that's all about? Yeah, absolutely, Ben. The Kangaroo Court is basically just a way to have some fun in the clubhouse. I feel like it probably came about for teams that don't have a lot of chemistry. However, for us, it's super easy because we have a lot of good chemistry. We have a lot of looseness. Basically, what it is, if you do something according to USD Baseball that's quote unquote brutal, they put it on a slip of paper with your name on it, and you put it in the Kang box, so to speak. And then at the beginning of the season, they basically go through and say everything in the Kang box, and we have a laugh out of it, and we have like little max fines, but I mean they're really just a way to get people to laugh a little bit, have fun, laugh at yourself. I know I'm in there probably about 50 times. If you ever ask Paul Richin on campus, Paul Richin, baseball player, junior pitcher on the USD baseball team, ask him how many times I am in the Kang box. He will tell you probably more often than anybody ever has been in the Kang box.
Way to solidify your reputation. It hasn't even your season hasn't even really started yet.
Yeah, it's all the dad jokes, really. Anybody who knows me knows that I tell some of the worst dad jokes you've ever heard. I mean, and then I'll fire back and say the more terrible they are, the better they are. I that's just my type of humor. Sometimes I'll go and delve into some other witchcraft humor. But that's what makes me tick, man. I love those things, and if you're gonna put me in the king box for it, I'm all for it. I'm not gonna change myself just because you don't like it or if you think it's brutal. But that's what makes me laugh.
You mentioned anyone that knows you would know that you say a lot of dad jokes. Speaking about knowing you, you and I go way back.
Way back.
Back.
Chris
Gone.
Berman. Gone out of here, Chris Berman.
Anyways, so Nigel and I went to high school together out in Anaheim, California.
Servite High School, home of the Fightin' Friars.
Yeah, it's an all-guys Catholic school, very competitive sports program.
Incredibly.
So I think... obviously, I knew that these dad jokes were coming, but I must say I was very excited to hear that you were coming to USD. But obviously, this is your junior year. You've had a lot of experiences for college ball that weren't USD. So can you speak maybe a little bit to how you ended up here, even in the first place?
Yeah, of course, Matt. The way, or I guess the roundabout way I got here. Everybody's seen that picture of what everybody thinks success is, and it's just a straight line. But really, it's a whole twisty, topsy-turvy type of road, winding. You don't always have the light. You don't always know where you're going. Just to put that into perspective, when I was in high school, I got recruited by Cal Poly, and I thought it was a great fit. I really enjoyed visiting. I enjoyed the coaching staff. And I enjoyed the players that I got to meet with before I went there, and I thought it was going to be a blast. And truly, it was. I had a fun time. The schooling at Cal Poly is rigorous, and needless to say, I had a difficult time in my first 2 quarters. But the athletics was a fun. It was a fun experience, really challenging. They really get after it over there, just as much as anybody else does. All the respect to them. When we were on the field or in the weight room or conditioning on the football field, we were really putting it in. However, it just wasn't the best fit for me. I could kind of feel it especially after the first month. You kind of know about these things. You can just kind of feel. Especially for me, it was early. I'm not quite sure this is a good fit. And when the summer rolled around and I was playing summer ball in Michigan, it hit me on a bus ride to Mankato. Maybe I need to go take this someplace else. If it's not a good fit and it's not working for you, and if I don't think it's going to go anywhere, you have to make a decision I felt like I had to make a decision to best help my future and to best help the way I wanted to go about things. And that decision wasn't going to be at Cal Poly. It was going to be at a junior college, and that's where it led me. I went to Santa Ana College in Santa Ana, California. Ironically enough, it was actually the only college I talked to. I texted my head high school coach, actually my pitching coach. I texted both of them actually, and I go, I'm not going back to Cal Poly. Do you have any recommendations on where I should go to junior college? And he fires back within seconds, Santa Ana College. I said, really? Not even, a number of other schools that I had known of, that I had been thinking of? And he goes, nope, you're going to go to Santa Ana. And I was like, all right, give me the coach's number. Fires me the number, and I called him up. His name's Tom Nillis, and he picks up and he goes, hey, I heard you wanted to come to Santa Ana. I'm like, yeah, how'd you hear that? It's like, your coach just texted me. And he goes, all right, this is going to be great. I'm super excited to have you over here. I'm sure he just figured it out. So I'm going to send you some paperwork. We're going to get you applied. This was like the beginning of August too, and mind you, the school year started August 26th. So I had about a month to prepare for junior college, and it was a really quick month. I finished summer ball, got my application in, started school on the 26th. I finished summer ball on the 23rd. Drove all the way from Michigan back to California in 3 days. It was a crazy drive, but just a little side note, driving through I-70 in the Rockies, if you ever get a chance to do that, anybody listening, that is a tremendous drive. Looks like the the Rockies there are just etched. They're like labyrinths. Anyways, I got to Santa Ana, and I really didn't know what to think on the first day. I thought this feels like high school again. How many of these guys are actually going to be really good? How many of them actually are going to give a damn about it? And the first day really opened my eyes. I mean, everybody there was really loose, but easy to play for, easy to compete for. Every guy wanted to be there. They had a chip on their shoulder, like, man, we're in junior college. Everybody wanted to be playing D1 or had gotten drafted or play any higher level than junior college after high school. So it was easy to go out on the field because everybody wanted to win and everybody wanted to play hard, and that's what we did. Every practice we came and we worked our butts off, and our coach really prepared us really well. Both our head coach Tom Nillis and our pitching coach, any other of our assistant coaches, they came to the field ready to work for us and ready to get us to the level of winning and making the playoffs, and that's what we did. We really had a tremendous year. We had an unbelievable pitching staff by our standards. We had another guy by the name of Guillermo Sanchez. We called him Memo. Another great, right-handed sidearm guy. We had a tremendous bullpen. Couple of sophomores, couple of freshmen really stepped up, and we pitched teams to death. It was unreal. We won a couple of walk-off games against some non-conference teams that were really good, and we were number one in the state for about 2 weeks. We were 14-2 before we started conference. Hit a rock. We started 0-5 in conference. We had this one game where I won't mention any names, but we were up in the last inning, and I was pitching, and we had I think they had the game-winning run on second and third, and tying run on third, go-ahead run on second, and we missed a pop fly on the infield, the 2 outs on both runs scored, so that kind of kicked off conference.
Oh my God.
It's a rough way to start conference, but we picked it up, and we finished conference just over 500 and squeaked into playoffs, won the first round. It just kind of speaks to the attitude, like I mentioned, the culture we had on the team. We were willing to do anything on the field and in the weight room to get us to playoffs and hopefully get us to win a state championship. We didn't get that far, but I had a great time, and it was easy to play for those guys, easy to play for those coaches because they wanted us to win. They came to the field every day, asking the question, what can we do to get better? And that kind of leads me right into San Diego because that is what everybody here does too. It's easy to come to the field because everybody comes in super loose, and then once we get on the field, it's like a bat out of hell, like Coach Hill likes to say. We're ready to go. Like we want to figure out a way to get better every day, 3 inches better. Our pitching coach Nathan Choate, he loves to say, the way you do anything is the way you do everything. So when you go about even your schoolwork, or you're going about like doing your bands before practice, playing catch especially is huge. The way you do anything is the way you do everything. If you do anything 100%, you're going to do everything 100%, and that ultimately puts you in the best position to win here. And I feel like we're gonna have a great season. I mean, we're unreal. I feel like we have a lot of great players, and if we continue to have this mindset, I mean, the sky's the limit for us, and probably beyond that.
Yeah, so it sounds like Santa Ana was a very good transition piece for you, and it seemed like a lot of things went your way. I'd say one thing that did not go your way was your Movember mustache.
Oh my gosh!
I'm glad it's November 6th, and I see nothing. I'm very happy for you. It seems like you got your stuff together. I think things are looking up for you.
Oh man!
Something we were talking about before the show is the culture and like maybe the relationships you have with your coaches, and how that looks in comparison to what you might see in professional ball. So I was hoping you could speak a little bit to that. Basically, what it looks like to be pitching in college versus what you've heard of people pitching in the pros.
Of course, I mean, just obviously I haven't pitched in the pros. I'd love to, but I know a couple of former teammates who have had the absolute opportunity and privilege to be able to do that for a living. And what I've gathered from them is that it's a lot different. One former teammate, I can quote him. He said, "It's not like babysitting so much," and I hate to use that word with coaching, but I guess that's just how he felt. ultimately, when you're in college, you'll have an outing or you have a bullpen or you'll finish a practice and a coach will come up to you and be like, hey, like this is what you did well today and this is what I need you to work on, and you feel very pressured. Like this is what I have to do in order to be able to pitch in the spring. This is what I have to do in order to maintain my spot on the team. And what this particular teammate said about the pros was that, if you have a bad outing or a bad bullpen or a bad practice, I mean, it's on you to figure it out. And if you have questions about what you need to do to get better, that's when the coach comes in. You get with the coach yourself. Of course, the coaches will ease you into the right way, but really it's mostly on you, is what I've heard. That's just one guy's experience, though. Personally, I hope it would be a little bit different, because I kind of like that when you have a coach who will come by and be like, okay, like you need to work on this a little bit. I can speak for a lot of my teammates when I say that Nathan Choate is probably one of the best pitching coaches in the country. He's really good on keeping you accountable, and he's a good feel guy. When it comes to giving you the spiel. Very honest, very considerate, and he lays it out on the line. He goes, look, I know you can be better than that, or hey, that was a good outing. Let's figure out a way to keep this success, because a lot of players know how to handle failure. I know that's a big thing for me. Like when I'm in a bad inning, I'm like, okay, this is easy. I know how to do this. Just put your nose to the grindstone and make pitches. But when you're succeeding, that's a lot different. You have to figure out how much work you have to continue to put in and how much more work you have to put in order to maintain that success. It's a lot different than being in a situation where you're having a string of bad outings.
Definitely. And that's great. That's fantastic insight. That's so interesting, Nigel. And I think my final question for you is, you're putting in all this hard work. You've put in so much hard work to get to this point. Are we going to see you in the majors one day, Nigel? Are we? You going to hook it up with tickets? And
are you just the tickets, man?
No. But are we going to see you dealing at the major league level at some point?
Oh man, that's the dream. I since I was a little kid, playing Little League when I was 6. I mean, I've always wanted to play Major League Baseball. That's been the dream. But again, like I mentioned earlier, it's being process oriented. I feel like at this point, I barely ever think about playing in the pros, just because I'm so focused on, okay, what do I have to do in the weight room today in order to get myself to the next level? What do I have to do in this bullpen? What do I have to do while I'm playing catch? I hope to God that I can play pro ball and deal, hopefully win a World Series, pitch for a great team, have a great career. That's what everybody hopes for. And to be able to manage that success is going to be difficult. But the failure will be easy. Getting there will be, okay, I know what mindset I have to be in. And that'll be fun to go through either way, whether I'm succeeding or failing. It'll be a grind, and I'm going to have a blast.
Great stuff, Nigel. And so you heard it here first on the Comeback Kid, everyone. Nigel Ward, future Major League Baseball starting pitcher, closer, reliever. You'll do anything. He is versatile. So he, we can't wait to track your progress, and and we really hope for you and your sake that all your hard work ends up paying off, man. So thank you very much, Nigel, for providing all that insight. So when we come back, we are going to be transitioning a little bit to European soccer. It was an important week for a lot of teams in the soccer world, so we will recap crucial matchups such as Arsenal Man City and Chelsea Man United when we come back. And also, what is wrong with Real Madrid? Seems like they can't take British teams for the first time in a long time, so stay tuned. We'll be right back to talk about all about it. Welcome back to the Comeback Kid, everyone. When we were last with you, Nigel Ward, guest on the show today, was talking all about USD Baseball, the kind of work they're putting in. Really exciting stuff. Can't wait for baseball season to get rolling. But right now, European soccer's going on. So the Premier League, there was some very interesting matchups this weekend, Nate. We had this past Sunday, we went to Shakespeare's like we always do, which is a pub in San Diego where you can wake up at the crack of dawn, 6 a.m., go in, and there's a ton of people singing, doing their team's chants, and watching some Premier League soccer. It's kind of like the most authentic experience you can have without actually attending the game physically, which is really, really fun. So we went this past Sunday. This past Sunday had two marquee matchups. There was Arsenal versus Manchester City and Chelsea versus Man United back to back. We stayed for both matches. It was packed. The bar specifically is a Chelsea supporters bar, so they were rather happy that Chelsea was able to take care of Manchester United over the weekend. But before we get into that, Arsenal Manchester City. As an Arsenal fan, I was hoping for more. However, I can sadly say that it was somewhat expected that Man City would come in and take care of business in this matchup. What did you see, Nate? What did you see in this matchup?
I saw a Man City side that is looking like arguably the best side in Europe, and I saw an Arsenal side that was like, it seemed like from the start they were resigned to the fact that they were going to lose. You could tell from the lineup Arsene Wenger put out. Why isn't Lacazette starting? You go out, you spend $50 million on a striker, and you don't start him for your biggest match of the season. Why isn't Lacazette starting? But he came out. He normally comes out with that 3-back. Decided to go with a 4-back because you don't want to get smoked out there. You're just saying, hey, let's park the bus and hopefully we can attack them on the counter. But I mean, the final score was 3-1. But the thing is that Manchester City they weren't even like dazzling. Like they were just better than Arsenal. But it wasn't they were out playing these tremendous passes. They were just. It looked to me like they just cared more, and Arsenal was just like, you know what, whatever.
I think it started with the lineup selection. I think if you were a player walking into that locker room, you see that Lacazette is not starting this game, you're kind of just looking at your manager like, what are you doing? You spent $50 million, as you said, Nate, to bring in a guy for these exact situations to start against the big teams, and you don't start him. It makes no sense to me.
I mean, how do you expect to keep Alexis Sanchez or Mesut Ozil when the mentality in the clubhouse is we're not going to start Lacazette, who you did spend all this money on, is what you're saying. I mean, we've heard a lot of names linked with Arsenal over the last few years that we would hope to see. I mean, if Arsenal had their way, Messi would be on Arsenal and Ronaldo, and let's just put Pele on the team. Like honestly, Arsenal has a problem, and I think it's safe to say that Arsene Wenger is the Solskjaer of soccer.
Oh yeah, he is. She's been there much longer than he should have been. Complete refusal to change. I mean, last season he went to the 3-back, which I'm pretty sure was the first time in 20 years that he had changed anything about Arsenal's lineup, about Arsenal's formation. And so, I mean, now the next test for Arsenal after the international break is Tottenham. Mm-hmm. I don't see them winning that match. So, last season Arsenal finished 5th. I think that they're a top 8 club at best. I think that they might not even qualify for the Europa League this year.
Yeah, that matchup against Tottenham is going to be very crucial, and we've seen in the past couple of years the power dynamic shift in arguably the fiercest rivalry in British soccer between North London teams, Tottenham and Arsenal. Tottenham the other week played Real Madrid at home and destroyed them 3-1. And Real Madrid over the past 2 to 3 seasons has unequivocally been the best team. They've taken a little bit of a step back this season, but they have been the best team in the world. So that was a very big statement game. But we'll get into that a little bit later. Before that, Chelsea took care of business this weekend against Manchester United. A very, very tight 1-0 victory. Nate, you and I were in Shakespeare's. Stoppage time was very tense. Manchester United was getting the ball into the box and getting a lot of scoring opportunities. And was this not only was this a must-win game for Chelsea, but was this a must-win game for Antonio Conte, the manager of Chelsea?
Yeah, I think this was a must-win game for Chelsea. I think that if they want to have any hope of winning the title, which right now with Man City 8 points clear of Tottenham in second place, I think that if Chelsea wanted any hope of winning the title, they had to win this game. They were able to take care of business. I thought that Antonio Conte he put out a decent line. Not decent line. He put out a great lineup, and the key was N'Golo Kante in the middle. They look like just such a better side when he's in there. I mean, they're creating chances, and I think that pretty much everyone from Chelsea had a pretty good game. Morata with a brilliant header to get them the 1 goal that they needed. And meanwhile, for Manchester United, after a flying start to the season, it's been a struggle for them. Yeah. Lukaku has not scored in, I think, 8 straight matches. I don't know what's going on with him. He shaved his head and his beard. I thought maybe that would bring him some good luck, but it's not. I don't know what's going on with Lukaku. And, interesting thing for Manchester United, Jose Mourinho, this is his second year there. I don't remember the exact amount of matches, but in his entire time there, in road matches against top 6 sides, Manchester United has scored 1 goal.
Really?
They scored 1 goal.
Wow.
And I think that's a problem with Jose Mourinho, is that when they go and they play these big matches, particularly on the road, Jose is happy with just getting a point. I mean, we saw a couple weeks ago against Liverpool. Liverpool is absolutely terrible defensively, and Manchester United, they didn't attack. They sat back, and it was a 0-0 draw.
Yeah.
Yesterday, they sat back. They didn't attack until the very end, and it cost them.
Yes. I definitely agree. And another team we mentioned prior that's really struggling is Real Madrid, Nate. What do you think is wrong with Real Madrid? They lost to Tottenham 3-1. They're some odd points behind Barcelona in La Liga. They're not really anywhere. They're within striking distance of the title, but they're definitely not where they want to be. What do you see that is wrong with Real Madrid right now?
Yeah, they're 8 points behind in the title race, and I think in the history of La Liga, only 3 teams have ever come back from an 8-point deficit. But I think that the problem with Real Madrid is just Karim Benzema just is not scoring. Cristiano Ronaldo, 42 shots on goal, 1 goal. No, 42 shots, 1 goal. Gareth Bale is constantly getting injured. And I think for the first time, we're going to see what type of manager Zinedine Zidane is. Because for his first couple years at Real Madrid, he's been flying high, hasn't had to make a lot of moves. But now he's finally having to deal with some adversity. And we'll see the type of manager he is. Because this is a guy who sold off James Rodriguez and Alvaro Morata during the summer. And I think that those guys could be making a difference right now on this Real Madrid team.
Definitely. I agree with that. And so some definite storylines are developing. I think Antonio Conte at Chelsea saved his job this weekend and restored a lot of faith that was dwindling a little bit over there because they had lost previously 3-0 to Roma in the Champions League. It was Chelsea was looking like an iffy side, but they were able to take care of business against a very, very strong Manchester United side over the weekend. And then Real Madrid, we'll see what happens moving forward. We'll see if Zinedine Zidane's time is running out, because Real Madrid, amongst many teams, managerial tenures there are not the longest, so we could see his time coming to an end there. So, moving on, we're going to transition into our segment. And I don't know if you just heard the door, but Matt just left. And that is because, Matt Hendrickson, this week, you are riding the bus.
Warm the bus. Warm the bus.
So, Matt, you're riding the bus this week because last week we had a segment about the Las Vegas Golden Knights and how amazing they are and how they're an impenetrable force in the NHL. The day after, or the moment after, the Knights must have heard you, because they lost 3 subsequent games after that segment. Matt, what are you doing? You're jinxing possibly the greatest start to any sports franchise's expansion team in history. You are the sole reason why they now cannot win the Stanley Cup. You are the sole reason why their season has now gone to waste. Matt Hendrickson, ride the bus.
Big time, ride the bus, Matt. Big time.
Come on, Matt. This is so disappointing. How can you do this to the good people of Las Vegas?
Seriously, I mean, look what they just went through. Come on, man. Like, give them some credit.
I mean, to Matt's defense, I guess, Las Vegas is on their 4th string goalie, meaning that 3 of their top goalies have gotten hurt. However, we're just having a great time just like roasting Matt right now. So, Matt, ride the bus.
This is nothing about the goalies. This is all Matt's fault.
Nate said it best. So, closing, we're actually going to introduce a new segment to you guys right now. So, we're actually going to update you guys what's going on here at the University of San Diego on campus. So, Nigel, can you tell us a little bit of what to look out for in the world of USD sports?
Yeah, absolutely, Ben. Just as a reminder to everybody out here listening, get out and support our sports teams, because we really do have some amazing athletes here at USD, especially men's basketball opening up, women's basketball opening up. USD football closing in on a Pioneer Football League title. They're undefeated right now. Don't want to jinx it, but I really hope they get that and get in a playoff spot. Not to mention volleyball. They're tied for first in the West Coast Conference. They beat BYU on BYU's home court, and I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, that's the first time they ever lost a set, or they have lost a set in like the last 5 years, let alone an entire match. So hats off to our volleyball team. Really athletic, really great games to go and watch. Especially, I mean, everybody here. Even if you have homework, you should go and watch these games. They're really something to see, and go out and support your fellow students.
Yeah, I mean, Nigel pretty much hit it on the head. Go out, support the sports teams. You'll see me particularly at the basketball games, and I might be the only one there, but I'll be there. I'll be yelling things at the other team's coach, at the other team's players, and it's the sporting events are as fun as you make them. So even if you're one of 5 students there, go out there, have a good time. You can make it a fun atmosphere.
Great stuff, guys. So remember, go out and support USD athletics. It's growing. We're doing a lot of big things in athletics, especially recently with how we're reaching out to students, and there was a football tailgate a few weeks ago for the homecoming game. So USD itself is making these games a lot more marketable and attractive for student attendance. So let's respect these decisions that they've been making proactively for students to get involved and come to the games, guys. So finally, like we do every week, let's give everyone our final thoughts, meaning what we are watching this week in the world of sports. Nate, what will you be watching this week?
Well, this Saturday I will be watching Miami and Notre Dame. It's going to be a great football game. Kind of a throwback to one of the old college football rivalries. They would call it the Catholics versus the Convicts, Notre Dame versus the U. And this is going to be College Game Day's first appearance at Miami in, I think, 13 years. And both teams are going to be ranked in the top 10 of the college football playoff ranking, so should be a great game. Nigel, what will you be looking forward to?
Actually, I'll let Matt go. Oh, wait a minute. Matt is gone forever. Never mind. Actually, this weekend, baseball has practice, so I will be at practice. But on a side note, I probably want to see a little bit of that Miami Notre Dame football game. That sounds like a great watch. And even if, like we were just talking about USD sports, come out and watch some baseball intersquads. I know we could take all the pressure we can get. We get a lot of fans out there, especially in the spring when we get into conference. Go out and watch some, do some homework, watch some baseball. I know I'm going to be following the off season. I know that is slow going sometimes, but we're going to follow that for sure.
Yeah, and as Nigel mentioned, Matt actually left. He has class, and he didn't want to sit through all that crap talking. So Matt normally would ask you. You're not here. What I will be watching is rather what I won't be watching, because baseball season is over, and I'm really sad about it. And it's going to be a cold, long, dark winter without baseball, and it's a sad time for me. However, soccer is kind of working my way in the heart. And again, the Miami Notre Dame game seems very entertaining, so have to look at that moving forward. So that's it for us this week, because I also have class to get to. Special thanks to Nigel. Thank you so much, man, for joining us on this episode. Your insight was super valuable, and we hope to have you back sometime.
Thanks, Ben. Sorry, I really appreciate that. Hopefully I can come on. Yeah, I'd love to be out here just goofing around with you guys on the radio. Love it, man.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks so much, Nigel. So, closing out, check us out on USD Comeback on Twitter and Facebook, or search The Comeback Kid and give us a listen on SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/ComebackKidUSD. And for those of you listening on Facebook, Twitter, or SoundCloud, we broadcast live every single week at 9 a.m. on USD radio station, which can be found on the TuneIn Radio app. TuneIn is available on both Apple and Android app stores. Once you download it, just search USD Radio, favorite that page, and you'll have access to USD Radio wherever you go. So that is it from us. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see you next week. Have a great day, you guys.
New Kung Fu Kenny. Ain't nobody praying for me. Y'all know what happens on earth stays on earth. Here we go. I don't give a